The library is open. Hey everybody, this is TinTim. That is T-I-N is in napalm, T-I-M is in machine gun fire. I am America's first drag queen public intellectual, aka the Cornell motherfucking West of Drag, coming to you each week with my thoughts on Season 7 of RuPaul's Drag Race. Episode 2. So last week I responded to some questions from the audience, and one of them came from Lisa Lynn, who asked how I felt people's personas on the show either sort of jived with or deviated from like whatever we were expecting from them or I was expecting from them in advance. And I said that for the most part they didn't. Everyone was exactly who I expected, with a few exceptions. But most of the exceptions that I wanted to talk about came up this week in this episode, episode 2. So the first of those was Sasha Bell. Sasha Bell, who unfortunately kind of choked this week. But, I think in the run-up to the season, a lot of us were really very won over by Sasha Bell on social media, on Facebook and on her YouTube, by her funny drunken makeover videos, and by a series of videos that she did on Facebook where she imitated the different contestants Meet the Queens videos. She's just been very sort of smart, funny, savvy, and attention-grabbing, and really using this opportunity to get some eyes on her. And I think because of that, our expectations of her during the show itself started to raise, and that she started to develop a little fan base in advance of the premiere. And I guess I would include myself amongst that fan base to a certain extent. I never felt like Sasha Bell was gonna go the distance or whatever, because I don't know, she always kind of gave off a little bit too much of a Iowa City, experienced bar queen regional vibe, not like that national stage vibe, whatever that is, right? Like she just, it seemed a little basic around the edges to be America's Next Drag Superstar, but her online presence has been so much fun that I was kind of hoping that maybe she could be one of these sort of unexpectedly versatile kind of Jocelyn Fox Black Horse types who kind of performs beyond expectations and stays in longer than you think they will and is sort of entertaining and interesting. Maybe she'd be a solid mid-packer. Obviously that did not happen. Part of what I feel like went wrong was that just watching her, she came off with this kind of a little bit defensive or uncomfortable. Some people have said whiny. It's a very loaded term, I feel like, because it feels like people are just responding to maybe the tone of her voice, which is kind of a shitty thing to do. I don't know, but with this sort of defensive, sort of uncomfortable vibe, her body language just has not communicated confidence to me watching her on screen. And I think that, she's one of these people who kind of overthought the whole thing and really was too much in her head, and really approaching the whole thing from the strategy angle, rather than just coming in and being the kind of character that draws screen time and draws fan attention and draws the camera. I think that it's an easy thing to do. I think that people underestimate the psychological difficulty of being on that show, and how much of the challenge is really more of a mind fuck as much as it is any particular drag skill. Just not letting yourself get psyched out, right? It's like being an elite athlete on the Olympic stage or something, and it can be as much about how you can control your psychology and emotions as it is anything else. And I think she kind of fell apart a little bit on that front, it seemed like, possibly. I feel like I've seen a lot of local bar queen type queens do this thing, and I've been a part of conversations like this or seen conversations like this where they talk so much about what their strategy would be if they were on the show, and how they would do this or that challenge, and kind of analyzing what has been successful and how you would replicate that success or follow that formula. And I just think that is not a good way to become a memorable reality television personality or to be successful on this show, right? You don't break it down to a formula. You can't overanalyze it. It doesn't work well that way. You need to come in and do more like what Trixie is doing, right? You come in, you do you, and have that you be be so ingratiating to viewers, or that it, you know, draws camera time, it stands out, it builds a fan base, whatever, right? Sasha was one of those storylines that, just judging from the show alone, tend to make me really sad, because you don't really get to see them do anything, and it's just kind of like mostly a negative impression, but not even that, and memorable a negative impression. It's just kind of like, considering all that, I think it's really awesome how much she has used the platform to do really memorable things over social media and to start to build an audience. She's been very savvy and very funny about that. And so, like, good on her. Hopefully she can sustain that into something, and use the show as a stepping stone, even if it didn't work out for her so well on the actual show. The other person, who's maybe a little bit different in person than what I expected based on the build-up around them, is Miss Fame, actually. I know I talked a lot last week about how turned off I am by approaching drag from a branding perspective, which totally played out this week, I felt like, in this whole argument and conflict about whether what Miss Fame does is really drag in the same way as performing queens. And I have to say that in any conversation that's about sort of narrowing what drag is, a part of me will always side with the more expansive definition and with an umbrella that can include a lot of diversity and styles. So I was definitely identifying with Miss Fame in that respect. But like I said, like, if the new style of drag that she is forwarding, if the way that she's trying to expand what drag is just as an exercise in, like, market research, that doesn't jive very much with how I think about art. But, you know, to each his own. But anyway, in terms of expectations, I was expecting Miss Fame to be much more alienating, kind of like an aloof personality, or like even bitchy. And so I've been a little bit surprised by what the level of sensitivity that she has, and that they played out for her this week. She is very affected. She has a lot of affectations, but there's a lot of feeling too. It could be that they're trying to tell a story with her that will sustain her longer, that she's one of the ones that they're really setting up to be in there for the long haul, so there needs to be some kind of, like, quote-unquote redemption arc. I know that's one of the theories. So that could be one of the reasons they're, like, sensitizing her or whatever, so making her blah blah blah, you know what I mean? Showing her sensitive side so early. You know, like, why they were like, let's bring out the pictures in the sob story in episode 2. But I think what made it work for me is I have, like, everything about Trixie, who I love so much, comes across as so authentic and, like, genuine, that to see Trixie actually genuinely bonding with Miss Fame and providing this support for her was, like, for me, like, a proxy for myself or something. Like, I really trust Trixie as a judge of character or something, and if Trixie sees her this way, then I can see her this way too, and kind of like her as a person, even if her way of thinking about drag as branding isn't necessarily the way doesn't jive with my philosophies on art. Other things from this episode. I love Ginger Minge, and I thought she was a great team leader, and she was solid in the challenge. I did not think that she was the most attention-grabbing or the strongest. I'm not sure I even would have put her in the final top group. I thought Trixie was very good and memorable. But the other one who really stood out to me that I think, in watching it and rewatching it, whose lip sync and performance caught my attention the most was actually Kennedy Davenport. I don't know, I'm kind of a sucker for really using the face and facial expressions and the mouth and lips in a lip sync, and I felt like she really, there was a level of precision to her lip sync on some of the parts that I didn't see from the other girls, and that totally, like, whoa. I also thought that, like, that some weird casting decisions were made. Maybe Trixie was being too humble, but if I were Trixie, knowing what Trixie can do and how often she uses spoken word in her performances, I would have cast myself in the part she gave to Katya. Or I think she should have. I think that should have been Trixie, and I think that she would have made a huge impression if she'd taken that role. I also think that Jasmine, a lot of people reacted really positively to Jasmine Masters' performance, and I thought she was really good, but I thought that the spoken word bit they had her cast to do, that was kind of like this 60s stewardess sex bot talking over the the intercom, like in an old mod sort of like. She was talking like in those, you know, dunk 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 dunk, you know, those ads like the voiceovers in the oh, is it Yellowtail wine ads, you know, that do the sort of 60s mod style. It just didn't seem like a good fit for Jasmine. I think just in general, I think that it's always nice to get to see them actually be able to do lip sync challenges, both spoken word lip sync as well as music lip syncs, because it's closer to what queens do in their everyday performance, and you get to see what they bring to the table when they do that. So I like this new tradition that they've adopted in the last couple of years of doing like a lip sync challenge for the second episode, or doing it early on. This was sort of weird as fuck. Really funny, I don't know, but they're also kind of random. So when you're still trying to understand who these people are and what this season is going to be, to have this really crazy, trippy, random, you know, like airline music thrown at you, like really trippy. Like I don't think I would want to watch this episode stoned, because I might like fall into some pit of strange panic, like what is going on and where am I, right? But yeah, that's all I got for episode 2. If you didn't figure out my secret, I filmed this the same night as episode 1. So behind the scenes, untucked, red mustache. Much love to you all. Mwah.